Greetings everyone and welcome back to another Starship Review. Today we're taking a look at the Janeway Command Science Vessel. This is the latest promo ship in the game, and the first ship that will not be available as a reward for the 2021 event campaign. Cryptic has been dragging their feet to update the promo choice boxes on Triple, so I need to say thank you to Card Game Nut, who sent me a copy so I could review it. We all appreciate it. Thank you. This ship may look like Voyager and bear the name of her captain, but the Janeway is not part of that family. It is a completely different model, which explains why it can't share skin parts. So if you were hoping to mix and match or use any of the old consoles, that's not possible. I don't normally talk about the appearance of ships when I review them, that's just not my wheelhouse. The cinematic at the beginning is designed to show it off and let the viewer decide for themselves. But since it's caused such controversy, let's talk about it. The detached nacelles don't really bother me. It's hard to know how a ship feels unless you have a chance to fly it, and the ship itself feels much better in person than you would think. Still, if you can't get over the silliness of the nacelles, and I wouldn't blame you, then it's not going to matter much. The Janeway has a 32nd Century Federation battle cloak, but functionally it's the same as a regular battle cloak. I understand that the Janeway isn't an Intrepid variant, and some of the best science ships are regular science ships, but I would have personally preferred something else. If it were a multi-mission, it would have been a little bit more like the Intrepid, and since it has specialization seating that favors weapons over exotic abilities, if it had been a science dreadnought, it could have gotten 7 weapons. But at the very least, it's a 4-2, and that's something. The seating is pretty good, but it's also tight. Science ships aren't known for an abundance of engineering, but with only a fixed ensign engineering and the Lieutenant Universal being the Miracle Worker, you have to choose between Miracle Worker powers and engineering. If you want emergency to engines and emergency to auxiliary, then you'll have to settle for only one Miracle Worker power. Figuring out how to balance exotic damage with 2 specializations known for weapon damage is tricky. The combination of Miracle Worker and Command is like peanut butter and chocolate, and helps to make the Zentaur one of the best torpedo platforms in the game. But it feels a bit awkward on the science vessel. I can't shake the feeling that it's possible to do something really broken with this ship, but I'm just not clever enough to figure out what it is. The Janeway has both a Commander's Science and Lieutenant Commander's Science, so you can get plenty of anomalies. And the lack of temporal seating doesn't really bother me much, since we have plenty of great temporal science ships in the game already. I do appreciate the fact that it does something different than other science ships with its seating, and that's something I praised the legendary Intrepid for, so I guess there's still some OG DNA in there somewhere. The overall stats are good, which is to be expected for a promo ship. The hull and shield modifier are more balanced than you normally see with a science vessel. The console layout is good, and the inspiration abilities are very nice, especially with the recent balance patch, which allows them to charge faster. There isn't much to complain about when it comes to the ship itself, solid stuff all around. You may have noticed I'm using torpedoes in the background instead of the phasers that come with the ship. I have some footage of them that I'm going to show you now, but since they can't be upgraded and I like to play on Elite, that was a no-go. That and I just don't have a do-side build for this character that really works. I think a more comprehensive discussion about the weapons should wait until they get released in their own lockbox. The trait Enhanced Cloaking integration is quite difficult to evaluate. It gives you 100% flight speed and turn rate as well as 4% max hold per second while cloaked, and then a large amount of weapon haste based on aux power when decloaking, a whopping 18% on my setup. On one hand, flight speed and haste are very powerful buffs, and these are a large amount of those buffs, but you have to have a cloak, and the uptime isn't great. Having a speed boost built into your cloak is powerful, and it could replace the emergency con hologram for builds of the battle cloak, freeing up another DOS slot. It would also allow you to get a huge amount of haste for energy weapons at the beginning of an ISE, which is usually where the biggest damage spikes are anyway. This character can't properly test the trait even if I weren't on Tribble. I could see this going either way. It could either be a really strong trait that gives both haste and speed buffs while also freeing up a DOF, or it could be too clunky with too much downtime where you'd rather just use something else that gives you haste or crit chance or whatever. Even if it does end up being a great trait, it's kind of a shame that an energy weapon trait is stuck on a science ship. The console photonic cannon doesn't quite live up to expectations, but then again, how could it? The real star isn't the clicky, but the passives, 15% crit severity for exotic damage and 7.5 aux power. The clicky itself does respectable damage, but since it's kinetic, you won't be able to buff it too well. I don't know what I expected it to look like, but this is not it. For one thing, it looks like a UFO. I mean, if it's photonic, then presumably it could look any way you want. I thought it would look like a giant cannon, and the blast would be something visually on par with the revolutionary set clicky. Instead, it just kind of tickles the enemies with a yellow laser. So let's score this thing. I'm going to err on the side of caution and round down, so to speak. I'm giving the Janeway 4 stars for performance. If you make a conventional exotic build, it'll do very well, and it's probably one of the better deuce-sized ships in the game, but it's not going to compete with some of the other science ships we have. Likewise, if you use conventional weapon builds like torpedoes or energy weapons, it'll do well, but not as well as some other ships. The real question is, can you make a build that takes all the unique strengths of this ship and puts it together into something that's as good or better than a conventional build? I don't know. I think there's potential here, but potential isn't enough to get top marks. As for the accessories, also 4 stars. The console's definitely okay, but feels a bit weak in the grand scheme of things. Is 15% crit severity for exotics really enough to slot it when the clicky doesn't scale with EPG? I don't think so. You wouldn't be mad to have it on your ship, but it's probably not going to be a go-to either. The trait has plenty of potential, but without the ability to properly test it, I'm afraid I'm going to have to take a conservative look on this one. Maybe people will look back and laugh because it ends up being broken, or it could just be another trait that fades away due to its high price and lackluster performance. Only time will truly tell. In conclusion, the Janeway lives up to the premium feel that I expect from a promo ship. Its unique configuration makes it stand out among an army of samey ships, even if that individuality doesn't overpower it. The verdict is still somewhat out, at least at the time of writing, on whether the ship or the trait are going to be top tier. The ship looks better than the pictures imply, and the photonic cannon is definitely a disappointment. Oh, and what's this? Oh, I'm being handed something from off-screen by my production assistant, who's definitely a real person and not someone I made up for a joke. It says, she's a beauty and looks ready for all sorts of adventures. Go boldly with my blessing. That appears to be a quote from Kate Mulgrew? Well, I'm not one to argue with the captain, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of my content in the future. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.